So who will do the indemnification, sir? Who?
Obviously, the public will in the U.S. They will not bear the
Facebook did the wrong, Google did the wrong, and all social media platform and all media premises gone against the narrative which the scientists were raising.
Yes. Well, we like to point out that in China they accommodated the Chinese government, but in the U.S. they accommodated the U.S. government for the same rationale and the same reason. So we have a problem. Okay, our democracy is deeply flawed. It has been captured by these large, well-heeled institutions. It's very hard. I can tell you, I spent a couple of months with the Robert Kennedy campaign. It is very hard to take on the big parties with the amount of money they can use to dominate the media. So for all of that, it's a real challenge, but the paradigm is shifting. Okay, I can say that as someone 67 years old who's been around American politics most of my adult life. We've seen a full cycle since the Reagan era, which led to globalization and market-based and the whole ideology. That ideology has unraveled quite a bit. It's still being contested.
So paradigm shifts towards Republican?
It's not the Republican Party you knew. Okay, it's not the Republican Party of the major corporates. It is a different Republican Party, much more populist, much more willing to challenge the orthodoxy.
Okay, so hegemony of corporates, the people are just waking up against corporates. Are you saying like this? The big pharma company, people are now started realizing the fact that who these pharma premises are and how they are controlling the institution and the government agencies too.
Yes, and they're very angry. But the problem is so big and so deep that people struggle to find hope. Okay, but this is the process. This is our satyagraha, if you will.
Now, let me ask you a very pointed question. The role of WHO. Now, WHO is already has prepared WHO that international health regulation. And they are planning it would be signed. And that would be legally binding for every member states. So what is your view that will WHO succeed in this sign campaign, or even US? What is the stand of US? Because I have seen that United Kingdom, England has refused to sign, and there are European states also, and even Australia. There is a great resentment in Japan, Australia, Germany, France too. So what is the stand of US on IHR of WHO?
The US was the leading demandeur, as they say in French, of the regulations in 2005, which created this power of the Director General to declare a pandemic emergency of health emergency of international concern, a state of exception. We'll talk more about that maybe, but and then decided that they had to fight misinformation and disinformation. They had to strengthen somehow WHO, and they pushed a whole bunch of changes. Okay. And the resistance came from the developing countries, particularly the experience of India and South Africa on resisting, trying to get the TRIPS implementation, very big deal. So I think that the status is that as long as Biden is there, they will fight for it. But they've agreed to postpone until a year a vote on the pandemic treaty, and they have adopted something very unusual for the IHRs. Okay, they're allowing countries to decide whether to adhere or not. So it's turning the IHRs from a legally binding instrument applicable to everyone to something more like a protocol, which is only for those who agree to do it. So what's happening is that you have to understand how the power of WHO works. Okay, It's like the Wizard of Oz. There's a man behind the curtain, and then creating a great idea that there is this powerful institution. Okay, this institution is its total funding of even $5 or $6 billion is about what a mid-sized hospital, major hospital in a mid-sized town in the U.S. would be. One hospital, okay, against a $4.3 trillion health industry. Okay, this is a point in a system, not even a space to talk about. And so what's happened is the capture of WHO allowed a certain point of view held by the people we've been talking about to dominate, to present itself through tremendous pressure put on the Director General as the voice of the world, okay? And we can dissect the way this happened and the way it actually works. But what's happening is that there's a medical doctor from Australia who's had a lot of very important things to say about this pandemic response, David Bell, and he calls it the epistemic authority of the WHO, the epistemic authority, okay? That's the prestige of the knowledge that we expect these global institutions to have, the objectivity and independence that we expect them to have, the authority of having a view of the world as a whole and recognizing that things are different in different places, the way diseases will impact is going to be different. We expect them to have all of that, and it didn't happen, okay? Probably we're going to find out that the approach that was taken in the U.S., it certainly, on objective measures, was the least successful in the world, okay? The highest rate of mortality in the world, despite everything that they did. So we see an erosion taking place of the credibility and authority. They have no military capacity to impose their will. It only worked if the sovereigns believed that this is what was best for them. And I think this has been destroyed. And it's a very, very dangerous thing. But let me stop talking.
भोलानाथ के 2-in-1 बैटरी ऑपरेटेड हार्वेस्टर कम ब्रश कटर के साथ ट्रॉली अतिरिक्त लागत पर उपलब्ध है। अधिक जानकारी के लिए कृपया दिए गए नंबर पर कॉल करें।